YouTube, Rumble, Twitter degeneracy continues. Now, I don't know how many of you guys out there that are parents, but I'm going to assume at least a handful of you are, right? Now, imagine your kid going to school and struggling mentally on their gender. But of course, a lot of these kids are actually just suffering from social contagions, right? Mulvaney being a part of that group. And I know I've talked about Mulvaney a million times. That's not the point of this topic here. A lot of these kids are dealing with the world with social media that is constantly being bombarded on them. And a lot of it happens to be this gender fluidity kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into a deep dive on this. I already did a video on social contagions. Now you add that to a school that tells teachers that they can't tell parents that their kids are suffering through this stuff. Kids are mendable. They're like Play-Doh. Your job as a teacher, as a parent, is to bend and mend these kids into becoming civilized human beings. Now instead, schools are hiding issues that our kids are going through regarding their gender or their gender identity, simply not telling parents about what their kids are going through. That to me is absolutely disgusting. I would want to know what my kid is suffering through. That way I can at least get to the bottom of the issue. A lot of these kids are seeing this stuff online and thinking it's kind of the cool, trendy thing to do. Now, not to say there aren't kids who are actually suffering through real gender dysphoria, but a number of kids are just going through a phase. You know, basically like what's trendy and what's cool. But instead of allowing the parents to take on their children's, problem they're dealing with, they want to hide that from them. For all you know, these kids are dealing with a social contagion, or they're being bullied, or a number of other things. You don't know that, and you can't possibly know that if you're never being told. It is the parents' right to know every little thing that's happening in their kids' lives. It is their responsibility to raise these children. They gave birth to these children. It seems convenient though, right? Convince kids that they're actually trans, and then when they start expressing those things that you're telling them they should express, don't tell the parents. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything, but these dots, they're connecting, and it's getting pretty fucking weird. Title of this article: Target partners with org pushing for kids' gender to be secretly changed in schools without parental consent. Right out the gate, it is what it is. It's that black and white. Teachers in schools are being told to not tell parents about gender issues they're going through and allowing them to change their genders while in school. Of course, legally on documentation, they can't do that, but in terms of how they address the student in school, they just get to pick it. The kids just get to pick it. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but kids are stupid. Kids are not allowed to vote. They're not allowed to drink. They're not allowed to smoke. They're not allowed to play scratch-off tickets. They're not allowed to do any of these things, but for some reason, we're supposed to confirm their gender they're feeling. Or I would like to say the gender they're being told. Now, Target isn't the only organization that has donated millions of dollars to this corporation called the GLSEN. But of course, Target is the topic of today's subject, so we're going to make them the highlight, especially for the items that were being pushed to children. I don't understand why these companies, or really anyone, is so hell-bent on pushing these things to children. And I want to make this very clear. I don't want you teaching your toddler about normal straight sex. This has nothing to do with trans. This has nothing to do with being gay. It has nothing to do with any of that. I don't think it's appropriate to be bringing up sex topics to kids, especially if you're not the parent. Target Corporation is partnering with a K-12 education group for which focuses on getting districts to adopt policies that will keep parents in the dark on their children in school gender transition, providing sexual explicit books to schools for free, and integrating gender ideology at all levels of curriculum in public schools. Fox News Digital uncovered. Now, books that this organization is pushing to schools for free are books like Beyond Magenta and Genderqueer. Beyond Magenta is kind of like a short storied book that goes over different teens and young children's lives in terms of into their experiences on basically sexual, exploration. And in one of the stories in this book, talking about a 6-year-old's experience with oral. I'm just gonna leave it there because YouTube's already probably gonna nerf the hell out of this video, but I'll just leave that there. Now imagine being a teacher and being told you have to do this, being told you have to keep quiet on these kids on what they're going through. You're not allowed to tell the parents, because if you do tell them, or if you don't conform to our rules, we will fire you. And if you have any sort of morality or any sort of human decency, you would 100% tell these parents about what's going on. You would 100% be there for these kids by telling their parents. And let's assume that the parents don't agree with what this kid is doing, right? That's not your business. These kids are not your kids. These are not your children. It's that simple. You don't get a say. But you know what your job is, especially since you're taking in the parents' tax money to even run your school? Your job is to tell the parents about what's going on with their children. It's that simple. You are tax paid. And for the schools that aren't tax paid, like a charter school that's being funded by the individuals, same thing applies. Your money's just going directly there. These parents deserve to know literally everything that's going on with their children. Literally everything. That is their right as parents. The GLSEN calls for gender ideology to be integrated into all classes, even math. It provides educators instructions on how they can make math more inclusive of trans and non-binary identities by including they, them pronouns and and word problems. This is ridiculous. We don't need to normalize any of this stuff. I will not adhere to it. If it's somebody I personally know and they're going through a real struggle and I actually genuinely care about this person and they ask me to do this, I'm a live and let live guy for the most part, but I'm also going to encourage you actually seek some proper mental health treatments. There's something you're struggling with, and to put that baggage onto everyone else is ridiculous. Listen, you guys, I respect everyone's struggle, okay? I really do. I genuinely feel upset and saddened for people who are legitimately going through gender identity issues and having an actual struggle with who they really are. But when you instill this kind of garbage into kids' minds at a very young age, they will formulate their own tragedies in their brain. Again, kids are basically Play-Doh. They're putty. They're being formed into the humans they will be tomorrow. And when you're shoving this crap down their throats, they're going to struggle with a bunch of this stuff when they don't need to be struggling with those things. These kids do not need to deal with this stuff. These kids need to have fun. These kids need to grow organically. They need to deal with issues. They need to struggle on different topics and different things. But gender should not be one of those things unless they're legitimately actually struggling. But we all know, if you've been on TikTok, that a lot of these gender issues these kids are facing are basically being derived from somebody else's problem and being put onto them as if it's their issue they're going through. So I'll end this with this. The GLSEN, these schools that are actually adhering to this stuff and not letting parents know about what's going on in their kids' life, you are a bunch of garbage fucking human beings. It's that simple. It really is. I will end it here, you guys. Don't forget to like, dislike the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and I'll leave the information to where I got everything on this video in the description down below. But anyways, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.